In the bustling city of Lagos, the market smelled of incense, dried herbs, and old secrets. Nia walked between the stalls, her fingers grazing the delicate fabrics and silver rings, her mind half distracted by the soft hum of a song playing from a distant speaker. She wasn't supposed to be here. Her mother would have scolded her for wandering through Makoko Market, a place where fortunes were sold in whispers and curses were wrapped in silk. But something had pulled her here, something unseen, something waiting. And then, she saw it. A single waist bead, black as night, threaded with tiny red and gold charms that seemed to glow under the lantern lights. It sat alone on a wooden table, unlike the other beads displayed in clusters. It looked old, ancient even, but untouched by time. "You like it?" a voice rasped. Nia turned to see an old woman, her eyes milky white, blind but watching. "It's beautiful," Nia murmured, reaching out. The moment her fingers brushed against the bead, a shiver ran down her spine. The world seemed to tilt for a second, as if the ground had shifted beneath her feet. "Take it," the old woman said. "It is already yours." "How much?" The woman smiled, showing yellow teeth. "Some things are not bought, child. They are claimed." The bead was already in Nia's palm. She didn't remember picking it up. She didn't remember slipping it into her purse. But when she left the market, it was there, pulsing softly like a second heartbeat. That night, Nia stood in front of her full-length mirror, the city lights of Lagos flickering outside her window. Her dorm room was luxurious, marble floors, silk sheets, a wardrobe filled with designer brands. Her father was one of the richest oil magnates in Nigeria, and her life had been perfectly curated since birth. She unwrapped the bead, letting it slide between her fingers. It was cold. She fastened it around her waist. And then, the world went black. Nia woke up in bed. Her body ached, her head throbbed like 1,000 voices were whispering inside it. She sat up, confused. Something felt off. Her phone buzzed. A message. Her best friend, Tola. "Tola, babe, are you okay? Where did you go last night?" Nia frowned. Last night. What had she done? She checked the mirror. Her waist bead was still there, glimmering softly against her dark skin. Something red caught her eye. Her hands. Her nails were stained with blood. Nia's breath caught in her throat. Blood. Her fingers trembled as she turned her hands over, staring at the dried red stains caked under her nails, smeared along her wrist. Her chest tightened. No, no, no. This is a joke. Maybe I cut myself. Maybe it's just paint. The expensive Persian rug shifted as she rushed to the bathroom. Under the bright vanity lights, she turned her palms up again. It was real. Her heart pounded. She gripped the sink, forcing herself to breathe. "Okay, think, Nia. What happened last night?" Her mind was blank. No flashes of memory. No hazy images of drinks or music or laughter. Just nothing. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Tola. "Tola, check the news." Nia's stomach lurched. Fingers shaking, she opened her browser and tapped on the first link. The headline sent ice through her veins. "Mysterious attack near campus, one dead, another injured." She stared at the words, unable to move, unable to think. She scrolled down, her pulse hammering in her ears. A picture. A bloodied alleyway. A boy lying on the pavement, his body limp, lifeless. A boy she recognized. His name was Deji Ibekwe. A senior. He was at every high-end party, always surrounded by girls and expensive liquor. He had flirted with Nia once or twice, but she had barely paid attention to him. And now, he was dead. Her vision blurred as she scrolled further. A survivor. Another student, Femi Aditeo, had been found unconscious near the scene, injured but alive. He had no memory of the attack. Just like her. Her stomach twisted. The blood on her hands. The missing memories. The waist bead, it was still there, glimmering softly against her skin, as if watching her. No. It's impossible. A knock on the door made her jump. Nia. It's me. Tola. Nia wiped her hands frantically on a towel, threw on a rope, and unlocked the door. Tola stepped in, her expression tight with worry. She was still in last night's outfit, ripped jeans, a crop top, her makeup slightly smudged. She shut the door behind her. Babe, what the hell happened last night? Nia swallowed. I don't know. Tola stared at her. You disappeared from the party. 1 second you were dancing with us, then you just left. I thought maybe you went home, but then I saw the news and, Nia, why are your hands shaking? Nia couldn't answer. Tola's eyes flickered down. She froze. What is that? Nia followed her gaze to the waist bead. Tola's face paled. She took a step back. Nia, where did you get that? A sharp pain stabbed through Nia's skull. Her vision blurred. The room tilted. A voice, a whisper, echoed in her mind. Don't tell her. The world went dark. Then, a whisper. You belong to me now. Nia's eyes snapped open, she was on the floor. Tola was crouched beside her, shaking her shoulders. Nia. Wake up. What the hell is going on? Nia gasped, struggling to sit up. The room spun for a second before settling back into place. Her head ached like a drum was beating inside her skull. What happened? She mumbled. Tola's face was tight with fear. You blacked out. 1 second you were standing, and the next, you just collapsed. Nia blinked, trying to process. The whispers in her head were gone now. But the waist bead was still there, cold against her skin. Tola was staring at it like it was a snake cord around her waist. Where did you get that? Tola whispered. Nia hesitated. She knew, somehow, that telling the truth would be dangerous. That whisper in her mind, it had warned her. I don't remember, she said finally. It wasn't a lie. Not entirely, Tola shook her head. No. Nia, listen to me. That thing. I've heard stories. A chill ran through Nia. What stories? Tola swallowed. There are beads, cursed ones. Some say they carry spirits. Some say they choose their owner and take control. And the worst ones? She hesitated. The worst ones make people do things and forget. The word slammed into Nia's chest like a hammer. Forget, she echoed. Tola nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. My grandmother told me about them. Some are used by witches, some by spirits that never left this world. But they always do the same thing. They take over the wearer. They use them. Nia felt like the walls were closing in. Tola, what if she couldn't finish the sentence. Couldn't bring herself to say the words out loud. What if I killed Deji? The thought made her stomach turn. Tola reached out and grabbed her wrist. We have to get rid of it. Nia let out a shaky breath. Okay. She stood up and reached for the bead. The moment her fingers touched it, a searing pain shot through her body. She screamed, doubling over. She began to see flashes of what had happened. Then it dawned on her, she couldn't take it off. A voice whispering, good girl. The images vanished as quickly as they came. Nia collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. Tola grabbed her shoulders. Nia. What happened? Tears streamed down Nia's face. Her body trembled. She choked on the words. I think I did something terrible. Tola's grip tightened. We need help. We need to. A knock on the door. Both girls froze. The knock came again, louder this time. A voice from the other side. Deep. Stern. Unfamiliar. Miss Nia Aditokombo, this is the police. We need to talk. Nia's blood ran cold. The room was silent. The knock came again. Louder. More impatient. Miss Nia Aditokombo. Open the door. Nia's breath caught in her throat. The police. Tola shot her a panicked look. What do we do? Nia's mind spun. They knew. They must have found something, security footage, a witness, something that tied her to Deji's death, but she didn't remember. How could she confess to a crime she didn't even recall committing? The bead burned against her waist, its heat spreading through her skin like wildfire. She flinched. No. Not now. Miss Nia, if you do not open the door, we will be forced to enter. Tola snapped into action, rushing toward the mirror. She grabbed a makeup wipe and scrubbed at Nia's hands, trying to erase the last traces of dried blood. Go to the bathroom, Tola whispered urgently. Wash your face. Act normal. Nia nodded stiffly and stumbled toward the sink, splashing cold water on her skin. The bead paused. Somewhere deep inside her mind, something stirred. Something awake. Something watching. She heard the door unlock behind her. Tola had let them in. 2 officers stepped inside, one in uniform, the other in plain clothes. The latter was tall, his dark skin smooth but his expression unreadable. Miss Nia, he said. His eyes locked onto her immediately. I'm Detective Musa. We have a few questions. Nia's heart pounded as she stepped out of the bathroom. Questions? About what? Musa studied her. You were seen leaving a party near the university last night. Nia forced herself to breathe. Yes. I left early. I wasn't feeling well. The detective tilted his head. Are you sure? Something about the way he said it made the room feel smaller. There was an incident, he continued. A boy was killed. Another was injured. And according to our witness, you were one of the last people seen near the scene. Nia swallowed. Witness, who? She glanced at Tola, whose expression remained calm, but Nia could see the slight tremor in her hands. Do you know Deji Ibekwe? The detective asked. Nia hesitated, the bead tightened around her waist. A flash, Deji's terrified eyes. A whisper, he deserved it. Her breath hitched. Miss Nia. She blinked. The detective was still waiting for an answer. She forced herself to look confused. I know of him. But we weren't friends. Musa studied her carefully. Where were you between midnight and 2 a.m.? Nia's pulse roared in her ears. That was the gap. The time she couldn't remember. I was home. The lie slipped from her lips before she could stop it. I left the party early and came straight back. The detective nodded slowly. And someone can confirm this? Tola jumped in instantly. Yes. She came back to the dorm. I saw her. Nia almost flinched. She hadn't even told Tola to lie. Musa didn't break eye contact. I see. He exhaled and slid something from his pocket. A plastic evidence bag. Inside was a small golden charm, blood-stained. Her stomach dropped. This was found near the crime scene, the detective said. Do you recognize it? Nia stared at it. The charm looked exactly like the ones woven into her waist bead. She had no memory of losing it. But the moment she saw it, she knew. It was hers. The bead paused. For a split second, she swore she heard Deji's screams. You would have to follow us to the station for further questions. Nia's heart raced. At the station, Nia was tense. She felt a warm, sinister presence against her skin. Watching. Waiting. Do you need a doctor? Musa asked. Nia shook her head. I'm fine. Her voice sounded hollow. The detective studied her. Miss Nia, let's be direct. A student was murdered. Another left for dead. And somehow, a piece of evidence tied to you was found at the scene. Nia clenched her fist under the table. I don't know how it got there. Musa raised an eyebrow. You sure? She nodded. Tell me again, where were you last night? Nia opened her mouth, but her mind was blank. No memory. No images. Just emptiness. She hesitated. Musa leaned forward. You see, that's a problem. He slid his phone across the table. The screen showed a grainy security footage still. Nia's heart stopped. The image showed a dark alleyway. And there, right in the center, was her. Her long braids swayed as she walked, her back straight. The timestamp read 1:47 a.m. Just minutes before Deji's death. The blood drained from her face. That's you, isn't it? Musa asked, his voice sharp. Nia's lips parted, but no sound came out. She had no memory of this. None. You said you were home, but this, Musa tapped the screen hard, this says otherwise. Nia felt something cold crawl up her spine. A whisper. Soft. Dangerous. Do not betray me. Her vision blurred. The room shifted. The walls felt too close. And suddenly, a flash. Darkness. A heavy, humid night. A shadow in front of her. Deji. His voice. Panic. Pleading. Nia, please. A blade. In her hand. Blood. A whisper against her ear. Good girl. Her body jerked violently. She gasped, slamming back into the present. Musa was watching her with sharp eyes. Something's wrong with you, he muttered. Nia's hands trembled in her lap. She needed to get out. Now. The bead tightened around her waist. And then. The lights flickered. A low hum filled the air. The metal chair beneath her vibrated slightly, as if an unseen force had slithered into the room. Musa frowned, glancing at the ceiling. Nia's pulse roared. The bead was reacting. And then, like a whisper in her mind, a thought was planted in her head. You are in danger. Get out. Nia moved before she could think. She lunged, slamming Musa's head against the table. The detective barely had time to react before she grabbed the phone, spun toward the door, and ran. Nia's feet slammed against the cold floor as she sprinted through the dimly lit corridor. Her breath came in sharp, panicked gasps. Behind her, shouts. Stop her. The station was small but crowded, detectives, officers, a few criminals slumped in chairs. Faces turned as she burst past, her heart pounding in her ears. She was acting on instinct. Or was it the bead? A whisper slithered through her mind. Run faster. She obeyed. Up ahead, a door. A young officer reached for her, but she moved before she could think. Her elbow slammed into his ribs. He crumpled. She had seconds. Move. She bolted into the crowded street, disappearing into the chaos. The city swallowed her. Nia's body moved on autopilot, weaving between cars, ducking into alleys, avoiding streetlights. She didn't know where she was going. Her mind was a storm. Fragments. Flashes. Blood on her hands. Deji's voice, begging. That horrible, soothing whisper. You did well, my love. Nia clenched her teeth. No. She couldn't think about that now. The bead burned against her skin, almost like it was pleased. She had escaped. But what now? Where could she go? She couldn't go back to the university. They'd find her. She couldn't go home. Her parents would turn her in. Tola. The thought hit her hard. Would Tola still help her? Or had Nia already gone too far? She reached into her pocket, fumbling for her phone. But it wasn't there. She had left it at the station. Her heartbeat quickened. No phone. No money. And then, as if the universe was mocking her, the sky cracked open. Heavy rain poured down. Nia staggered into the shadows of a narrow street, her hair drenched, her clothes clinging to her skin. Her breath came out in shuddering gasps. She was losing herself. No. She needed a plan. She needed answers. And she knew exactly where to find them. The old woman. The streets got quieter the further she ran. The high-rise buildings gave way to older, forgotten parts of the city. Nia wasn't sure how she knew where to go. But something was pulling her, guiding her feet through the maze of alleyways. She stopped in front of a small, crumbling shop. The sign above the door had long since faded, but she could still make out the Yoruba script. A bead maker. The air was thick with the scent of incense. A soft, golden light flickered inside. Nia hesitated. Something about this place felt old. Powerful. But she had no choice. She pushed the door open. A bell jingled. Inside, the shop was dimly lit, shelves stacked with waist beads of every color, every size. Some shimmered like gold, others seemed to pulse with a strange light. And sitting behind the counter, her eyes lifted immediately as if she had been expecting Nia. Her gaze pierced through her. You came, the woman murmured, her voice deep and knowing. Nia swallowed. I need help, she said, breathless. The woman stood slowly, her beaded bracelets clinking together. She stepped around the counter, stopping just inches from Nia. Her wrinkled fingers reached out. Before Nia could react, the woman pressed a hand against her waist. Right where the bead sat. A sharp gasp left Nia's lips. The world tilted. Her mind split open. A flood of memories crashed through her, filling the empty spaces like a dam had burst. Blood. Deji. Her own hands, gripping his shirt. The knife sinking in. She had done it. She had killed him. And she had forgotten. The bead pulsed warmly, as if rewarding her. The old woman sighed. Oh, she murmured. You were a cursed thing, child. Nia's body trembled. What is it? She whispered. The old woman met her gaze. Her voice was low. Heavy. It is a spirit, my dear. And now, it owns you. Nia's blood ran cold as the old woman's words sank in. It owns me. Her heart skipped a beat. How? Why? The spirit. The bead. It was a curse. Nia stepped back, her hand instinctively reaching for the bead, as though she could rip it off. But the moment her fingers brushed against it, a jolt of pain shot through her body. The woman smiled, though her eyes held no warmth. The spirit of the bead does not like to be disturbed, child. It chooses its own. Nia's pulse raced. No, this isn't real. But deep inside her, the bead pulled. You killed him, didn't you? The woman's voice was like a quiet whisper in Nia's ear. The spirit wanted it. The spirit needed it. Nia shook her head. No, I didn't. I don't remember. Her voice broke. Her memories were fractured. The flashes of Deji's terrified face, the blade in her hand, the whispers in her head, they were real. The old woman's eyes softened, and for a moment, Nia thought she saw a flicker of compassion in them. It is not your fault, child, she said, her voice almost gentle. The spirit chooses its vessel, and it feeds on your darkness. You only hear what it allows. Nia trembled. What does it want from me? The woman sighed. It wants control. To make you its puppet. It feeds on the misery, the terror, the bloodshed. It is a vessel of death, and once it's claimed you, there is no turning back. Nia's breath caught in her throat. But I didn't want this. I didn't want to kill anyone. The old woman studied her, and for the first time, her eyes seemed to flicker with something ancient, something knowing. You don't have a choice anymore, child, she said softly. It is part of you now. And it will never let go. Nia's hands clenched into fists, the bead pulsing against her skin, almost like it was laughing at her. A presence stirred deep inside her mind. No, she whispered. I won't be its slave. The old woman chuckled, but there was no humor in it. It is too late for that. You are already lost. A sudden shiver ran down Nia's spine. The bead tightened around her waist as if to prove the woman's words true. Nia staggered back, fear and rage rising inside her. What do I do? The woman's eyes softened. There is only one way to break its hold. Nia's gaze snapped to hers. What? Tell me. The woman paused, then spoke, her voice almost a whisper. To break the curse, you must destroy the bead. Nia's heart skipped a beat. Destroy it, she echoed. How? The old woman closed her eyes for a moment. The bead is connected to the spirit's essence. It feeds off of your pain, your fear, your blood. But if you can break it, if you can separate yourself from it, you will be free. Nia's hand went instinctively to the bead again, but a cold, unbearable sensation flooded her chest, making her freeze. But the moment you destroy it, child. The woman's voice was grim. You must know that everything will be lost. Your memories. Your life. Nia swallowed hard. What do you mean? What will I lose? The old woman's gaze turned sorrowful. The bead is not just a tool of destruction, it is a guardian of memory. If you destroy it, you will lose everything it has bound to you. Nia clenched her jaw, the weight of the woman's words pressing down on her chest. Everything. The image of Deji's face flashed again, so full of fear, so full of pain. Could she do this? Could she destroy the very thing that held her together? You'll forget him, the woman whispered. All of it. Your past, your loved ones, your future. It will all be erased. Nia took a shaky breath. The bead burned against her, like it was trying to pull her in, trying to make her forget that she had any choice at all. But she did have a choice. She had to. She had to do it for herself. For Deji. Her fingers shook as they touched the bead again. The warmth seeped into her skin, and she felt the whisper against her mind once more, the voice of the spirit. You cannot destroy me, Nia. But Nia's heart hardened. She could feel the power coursing through her veins, the tension in the air as the bead reacted to her defiance. I will, she whispered to herself. I will destroy you. Nia's breath came ragged and uneven. The shock felt smaller. Tighter. If you destroy the bead, you destroy yourself. The words hung in the air, heavy and unshakable. Her hands trembled as they hovered over her waist. She could feel the bead's warmth, the slow pulse, like a heart beating against her skin. Memories. Nia's throat tightened. There has to be another way. The old woman shook her head. None that would leave you whole. Nia's mind whirled. How could she choose? To live, but never remember who she was. Or to keep the bead, knowing it could make her kill again. The bead tightened, almost like it was laughing. And then, a deep, familiar whisper. You are nothing without me. Nia flinched. Her vision blurred. And then, a flood of memories. A forgotten life. The first time she put on the bead, she was 6 years old. It was a gift. A woman's voice, soft and sweet. "This is special, my love. It will keep you safe." Her mother. Nia's mother had given it to her. She could see it now, a younger version of herself, standing in front of a mirror, watching as the tiny crimson beads rested against her skin for the first time. Her mother's hands lingered on the knot, fingers pressing down just a little too hard. And then, a whisper. "She is ready." The memory fractured into darkness. Nia snapped back to the present, gasping. Her mother had given her the bead. Her stomach twisted. Why didn't I remember that before? The old woman's face remained unreadable. Because the bead decides what you remember. Nia's skin prickled. All these years, she had never questioned where the bead had come from. It had always been there, as natural as breathing. But if her own mother had given it to her, had she known? Had she known what the bead would do to her? Nia felt sick. Her hands shook. Her body felt foreign. Who was she before this? The bead whispered again, soft, seductive. "You do not need the past. You only need me." Nia's jaw clenched. No. No more secrets. No more forgetting. She ripped the bead from her waist. A searing shock jolted through her body. The walls trembled. The bead screamed. Not a human scream, something deeper, ancient. The old woman backed away. "Foolish child, do you know what you are doing?" Nia's vision blurred. Her legs gave out. The shop tilted. And then, darkness. Nia plunged through the abyss. The air was thick, suffocating, like drowning in ink. Her body was weightless, yet she felt trapped, like she was sinking into something far older than time itself. And in the darkness, her mother stood, her form twisting, shifting. "You should not have done that." Nia struggled to breathe. "You're not my mother." The thing smiled. Its lips curled too wide. "But I made you." The words sent ice down Nia's spine. Memory swarmed her mind, crashing over her like a tidal wave. She saw herself, young, innocent, being wrapped in the bead's embrace. It had always been there. Always whispering, always guiding. It hadn't just stolen her memories. It had shaped them. Had she ever truly been Nia? Or had she only been what it wanted her to be? The realization hit her like a knife to the gut. The bead had never been a gift. It had been a claim. A mark of ownership. The thing in the darkness stepped closer. Its form shifted, morphing, from her mother, to Deji, to Tola, to strangers she had never met but somehow knew. They were the ones before her. The ones who had won the bead. The ones it had consumed. And now, "You are mine, Nia." The shadows rushed toward her. But this time, she fought back. Nia clawed at the darkness, forcing herself to remember. Not what the bead had given her, but what it had stolen. She saw her mother, before the bead. A woman who had been afraid, desperate, trapped in its curse. She saw the first time Deji had looked at her, not with love, but fear. She saw the truth. And then, she screamed. A raw, guttural cry that tore through the abyss. The darkness shattered. The bead's hold snapped. And Nia woke up. She was lying on the shop floor, drenched in sweat, her breath coming in ragged gasps. The old woman was kneeling beside her, watching in quiet shock. The bead lay in front of her, cracked, lifeless. It was over. Nia's chest rose and fell. For the first time in years, she felt light. The whispers were gone. The haze, the missing time, the feeling of being a passenger in her own body, all of it had vanished. She was free. But as she sat up, her hands trembling, the old woman spoke, soft, knowing. You broke free, child. Nia swallowed. But the curse is never truly gone. The warning settled in Nia's bones. She looked at the shattered bead. Something in the pieces still felt alive. Watching. Waiting. Nia took a deep breath, then reached forward. And crushed it under her heel. The last whisper died. And Nia. She walked away, into the night. A survivor. A girl with no past. But, finally, a future.